Hi everyone, my name is Nicole Medina and I'm going to be doing my project on Death Note. Specifically, how does Light Yagami's transformation in Death Note reflect the psychological consequences of unchecked power? Here's my thesis. In Tsugumi Oba and Takeshi Obata's Death Note, Light Yagami's transformation from an idealistic student into a self-proclaimed god reveals how unchecked power can psychologically corrupt even the most intelligent and morally driven individuals. Through Light's increasing confidence, moral disengagement, and loss of empathy, the manga illustrates real-world psychological theories about how power distorts ethical judgment and identity. Some bibliographical information about Death Note. The Madhouse Studio made it in the years 2003 to 2006 by the time it was finalized. And then it was directed by Tetsuro Araki. The demographic is shown in the category as mystery psychological crime. You can view it on Hulu or Tubi. There's some other ones, but those are just the most mainstream. What is unchecked power? Unchecked power is when someone has authority without limits or oversight, which basically just means no one can hold them accountable or challenge what they do, which often leads to abuse or decisions made purely for self-interest since they have no one keeping them in check. Who is Light Yagami? So he is the main character of Death Note. He was the top student in Japan. He was very intelligent and ambitious. He had a strong sense of justice, and he just wanted to make the world a better place. Then, by the end of the show, he was manipulative and controlling. He killed anyone who got in his way, and he was convinced that he was a god above moral judgment. Some key turning points for Light was first his first kill. He kills a criminal to just test the Death Note. And then he just kind of realizes the amount of power that he has. Then comes his rivalry with L, where he begins using manipulation, deception, and killing to win because he realizes there's threats to his plan. Then becoming Kira, he starts fully embracing a godlike identity. He justifies murder as divine justice. And then there starts to be some Kira worshippers. Public support for Kira grows. Light becomes obsessed with control as people begin to see him as their like savior and their god, which just reinforced his belief that he was above the law. Then we have a quote down here that connects to that. There's evidence of addiction to the power derived from celebrity and fame. Um, Promotes the need to engage in efforts to hold on to and accumulate the power, which just kind of shows how that would make Light a little bit more keen on completing his mission. The moral disengagement theory is the process in which individuals detach from their moral values to justify unethical behavior without feeling guilt or responsibility. So, in short, it's people convincing themselves that ethical standards don't apply to them in certain situations because they're doing it for the greater good. The power disinhibition theory, it suggests that having power or feeling powerful leads to a reduction in self-regulation and an increase in impulsive disinhibited behavior. Then we have a quote. Individuals in power who know they will be held accountable are more likely to consider social consequences and take others' interests into account, meaning those who can't be held accountable do not take others' interests into account. A psychological analysis on this is we have the two theories we just talked about, and we're going to be applying them to Light. First, we have a quote, high power individuals tend to act in ways that disregard conventions, morals, and the effects on others. So first, we're going to be talking about moral disengagement. Signs of this are rationalizing harmful behavior, not feeling guilty, and shifting blame and manipulating. We can see this in Light when he says, I am justice, I protect the innocent in episode 1, where he's rationalizing the harmful behavior. There was no other way, the world had to be fixed. Again, he's rationalizing. He tricks and kills FBI agent Pember because he's a threat to justice. And so that's kind of shifting the blame and rationalizing as well. Then he pretends to love Misa to use her Shinigami eyes, showing no remorse for what he's doing to her. It just demonstrates his justification of all of his immoral actions. Then power disinhibition, usually there's increased confidence and impulsivity. They're not being able to be held accountable, and there's decreased empathy. We see this in Light when he says, the world is rotten, and those who are making it rot deserve to die in episode 1. And then Light calmly watching Lindell Taylor die in episode 2, and then shortly after saying, that was perfect. Now the world knows what happens to those who oppose Kira. This shows his overconfidence and detachment early on in the show. Then I'm still working on researching for this slide. This is just real world parallels of unchecked power. I'm going to talk about the Stanford prison experiment, where college students were assigned roles of guards and prisoners in a mock prison, and within days the guards became abusive even though they knew it was an experiment. And then I also wanted to take a look at a few dictators or like leaders that show um, examples of how unchecked power can go wrong, but I'm not too sure what I'm gonna do with that yet. And then I have my conclusion. I just restated my thesis saying light's transformation shows how power can strip away empathy and warp morality, even in someone who starts out as good or moral. And yeah, I'm just gonna reflect on the slide. And then at the end, I have a couple questions for the audience to think about. And that's all. Thank you for watching.